One day, on the fair-grade in Millington Railway, the station master was waiting on the platform for the next train to arrive. But it was late, and he was getting anxious. At last, Grantham arrived about 3 minutes late. The station master angrily ran up to the guard, demanding for an explanation. But just then, Mr. Hewson, the controller of the railway, popped out of the first coach, and he looked like he was in a rush. "I'm very sorry," he said. "The train had to make a pit stop to pick me up, and I really needed to speak with you." "Very well," said the station master. "What is it?" "Now follow me," onto the other. Until they did, and they waited. Until the main engines arrived on a coach of electricians, poles and wires, and a new engine that the station master had never seen before. "Sir, what's this about?" Mr. Hewson led him to the street as large poles were being raised between the tracks. "Well, Harry, remember that big project I spoke about a week ago? Well, this is it. I am officially electrifying both the main line and the goods line." "What?" "This railway has been running with steam and diesel power for years, and ever since we reprivatized this railway, the F&M board have been enjoying making projects without British Railways interference." "I'm surprised you even mentioned distance yourself from BR. Anyways, this project was a deal us and the Moray Hydroelectric Board were working on for years now, and the officials agreed that we can use their hydroelectricity grids to electrify this line. So when I said we needed another engine, this is not what I had in mind." Like I said, this project was a long time coming. And with this Class 76, Class 76? Class 76, sir, those are the worst performing electric engines that BR has ever produced. I know that. But I brought this on the cheap. And our board CFO even agreed that it's more economically viable to buy this engine and overhaul its defects. All the same, I just hope you know what you're doing, sir. Oh, don't worry, Harry. I do. While the workmen were busy setting up poles and wires, the engine was getting fitted with single-arm pantograph system works, compatible for the 25 kilovolt AC system. It wasn't long until the engine was ready for service. After they were finished, Mr. Hewson was so pleased that he let the chief mechanic name it after his daughter, who was turning 8 this week. And when her nameplate was fitted on, Margaret left the works and was taken to the transfer station. At last the line was ready, with workers and drivers waiting on the platforms, and Samuel and Jeremiah were parked on the first platform. A while later, the engine finally arrived at the station and was ready for her first run. Peter was a diesel driver, and he had no experience with electrics, but he was still trained and got on reluctantly. The vans were coupled, the station master blew his whistle, and Mr. Hewson watched as Margaret departed. As she tore down the line, things went well, until they didn't. Peter was put off by how little of the line he could see, but he didn't see much of a problem until the engine started stalling. When they reached the next station, Peter stopped Margaret and went to check what was going on. "Oh dear." The bogies seemed to start bending, so he called for help. Soon, a mechanic arrived to inspect what was wrong. Well, I'm afraid it can't hold Margaret's weight for a long time, so we'll have to strengthen them afterwards. She can still take the train, but at a slower pace, and oil sit in the back in case something else goes wrong. As he walked towards the brake van, Peter restarted the engine, and they set off again, at a much slower pace. So slow that the workmen and tram waited at the platform as the engine arrived, way behind schedule. They transferred the boxes and crates as fast as they could, but the tram was still late leaving the station. Behind schedule? Yeah, what a way to start a first run anyways. Oh dear. To make matters worse, the next stop was on the goods line, which wasn't even electrified yet. So, no other way, Samuel was chosen and took the train to the station. The first run was unfortunately failure. At night, Hampton the maintenance diesel pushed Margaret inside the sheds. Mr. Hewson was not pleased.
Harry was right to be skeptical. Why didn't I just put more research into this engine? Don't be so hard on yourself, sir. We just didn't call any of our other limitations as a question now, did we? What are we supposed to do with it? We could just use the money to buy a better electric, like the new Class 87s that be us. As much as that sounds fine, that action violates Regulation 21B of our railway, where if an engine on this railway is named, it shall not be withdrawn, lest it's no longer serviceable. Like if it's in an accident or something. That rule still stands after 81 years, and I'm not hoping to break any promises. Very well, sir. May we proceed with the repairs?
You may. The railway remained with an unused electrical system, so instead of putting it to waste, they went ahead and electrified the attraction coaches. And with the constant power, the coaches provided air conditioning and were deemed very popular. The next day, not only was the electrification of the goods line complete, but Margaret was back in service with her old diamond frames. This time, Margaret was trialed into taking the express. So just in case, the mechanic stood up front and they left. Margaret tore down the line and she was making great time, at least for now. But on the way to the third stop, however, things went wrong yet again. The engine was starting to run poorly at express speeds, but they didn't stop. Now it was time to head towards the junction station. At that point, the engine wasn't really fussing and the mechanic forgot to be phased. But when they arrived at the second-to-last station, the engine couldn't take the strain. It coughed and spluttered, and Margaret stopped on her tracks. Smog filled the platform, and the passengers were coughing and wheezing. Luckily, Lucy was at the yard being used to organize the trucks, so the driver covered her to a coach, and the passengers scurried inside. Luckily, Margaret had enough sputter to get switched into the sidings. Grantham, who was nearby, had to take the express instead, and his driver tried to make up for lost time. Unfortunately, Margaret was almost finished. The sheds were about a few miles away, and with no other engine available, Peter had to wait for Margaret to cool down, while the mechanic checked her engine.
She'll have to get her motors replaced.
Mr. Yerson won't be happy at all.
What do you reckon?
He'll probably just withdraw it.
Oh, Mr. Hewson doesn't give up that easily, surely.
When she cooled down, Margaret was shifted from the yard and looped back into the main line. Meanwhile, on the main line, Fergus and Ivan were having troubles of their own. The branch line passenger train slowed to a halt with no station in sight.
Put the fire down, bloke. The pressure's raising.
What happened?
You ran out of water.
Oh, quickly. Don't you feel sorry today? Your bullets are really hit you sometimes.
Never mind about that. What do we do now? Oh, thank God you finally came.
We're stranded with about 40 passengers.
How did that happen?
Well, I don't know, but
Some, it doesn't matter. We need to get to the passengers to Keith immediately.
it's risky, but we must try.
Great. Cheers. Sorry for that.
Margaret switched lines and was coupled up to Samuel. In no time, they set off. Not wanting another delay, Peter didn't hesitate to increase the speed. The mechanic told him to stop, but Peter just kept on going. Margaret soon began to sputter, but Peter was determined to get to the next station on time. At last, the town was in sight, but Margaret started stalling.
Oh, just a few more yards.
At last, they made it. Margaret finally gave out and coughed black smoke out of her exhausts yet again. But the train was on time. The next day, Margaret was back in the works.
Well, that was interesting.
I'm sorry, sir. I just wanted to avoid another delay.
I'll say what's out to give out anyways. Well done.
Well, what now?
I think we found every defect and how to fix them. Hopefully this will be the last proper fix Margaret will need.
And indeed, it was. After a few fortnights, they fixed every defect they could spot, and her final test run was a success! And on the platform was Margaret, the chief mechanic's daughter herself.
Surprise, Margaret dear. Do you like it?
She was thrilled to have a new piece of railway innovation named after her and even went on a ride inside the engine. As for Margaret, the electric engine, she was finally free of any defects that the other Class 76 engines would suffer, and with her weaknesses finally pushed aside, she was able to show her strength to the railway and still works to this day. And if that's not considered a victory of trial and error, I don't know what is. After electrifying the line, Mr. Hewson made many other new changes, such as installing new signal lights, radio systems, scrapping brake vans in favor of continuous fitted brakes, and a big expansion to Tavis stock. The other installments were smooth sailing, but the expansion would be a huge team effort. And the reasoning of the expansion also came with 3 unexpected additions to the railway, but I mustn't tell you more, or I'll spoil my next story.